All right, so I'll kind of start us off here and we'll get going. Thank you guys again for your time.
Yep.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Great to see everyone coming in here on this wonderful Wednesday. Uh, I am in Chicago where we got some thunder and lightning. Everyone, all the speakers here in beautiful California where it's usually always beautiful. Great to see people rolling in. It'd be awesome if you let us know where you are from. Where are you calling in from today? Put your name, put your department, put your city. Always great to see that. We're going to get going here in just a few minutes. But just if possible, I'm going to ask everyone if you're encouraged to have your camera on if you want. Halfway through this, we are going to make this a kitchen table style conversation, open table. So if you got a question, ask it. If you got a comment, drop it. But if you can, please continue to keep your microphone on mute. As you can see, this is a little different than a standard. Where is this? Here we go. A standard webinar. It's not a webinar. It's a kitchen table, a virtual kitchen table. So we ask for respect. If you want to say something, please try not to talk for more than a minute. And if you want to say something as well, say it with respect and constructive criticism and no racial slurs or slander, if please possible. So just going to get going here again in a minute, but great to see you, Gary Oldham, Mike Hermel. It's wonderful to have you here. Emily Guerra, Doug Bailey, Greg Boyd, everyone. So great to have you here. We've got about 30 people here right now. We're expecting somewhere between 30 and 50. This is being recorded, so just for everyone's situational awareness. And I think without further ado, we're just gonna jump right in. So I am, as I'd mentioned, I guess first introduce myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Sofin. Work with a few different initiatives, but lead the smart firefighting, smart first responder community. And excited to have you here in this conversation today around getting ahead of the fire with shared situational awareness. And I think everyone knows wildfire season is not a season anymore. It's kind of like something that happens almost all year round. It's a persistent threat that's faster, hotter, and more complex every year. And that complexity just means that more units, more decisions, and more lives are on the line. So today's session is about what happens when crews actually share intel in real time across departments, across districts, across devices. And you're going to hear some real stories from the LA fires, what worked, what didn't work, and how we're slowly shifting from patchwork radios to scattered updates to shared operating pictures that connect the whole team. So we brought together some of the most respected voices in the space who will introduce themselves shortly, and they're here to talk about what it really takes to coordinate under pressure and stay ahead of the operations. Great to see, again, another 4 people join here in my little intro. So I'm not giving that again. But so we're going to throw that here now. I'm going to have William Pigeon from Tablet Command, our first speaker, give a quick little minute intro, followed by Chief Tom Clemo, then Chief Fetterman, and then both Fetterman and Clemo are going to give about 10-ish minutes insights, and then it's going to be turned over to the community. So please write questions in the chat, comments in the chat, and be prepared to ask it. It's meant to be two-way dialogue. So without further ado, William Pigeon from Tablet Command. If you could give us a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you started the company, and a little bit more about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kevin. Thanks for having us today. Will Pigeon grew up in the East Bay, went down to San Diego State to start school and got interested in the fire service, starting with San Diego City as a cadet. Worked down there as a firefighter medic for a while, and then get hired by Contra Costa in 2005 and promoted up the ranks to assistant fire chief with Contra Costa, leaving the department in 2020. I was overseeing the communication center and IT. And back in 2011, my co-founder and I founded Tablet Command after we suffered 2 line of duty deaths inside the department in 2007. Got the department thinking about better accountability, notifications. There were a number of things that recommendations that came out of that incident. But Andy was playing Words with Friends and realized he was dragging a tile out to the board and could assign a letter out, which could be an engine company being assigned out to fire attack with 3 personnel on it. So we founded Tablet Command. And I left Contra Costa County Fire at the end of 2020 to become full-time as a CTO for Tablet Command. And I took over as CEO in May of 2023.
Love it. But was it, you say now, was it Find My Friends or Words with Friends?
Words with Friends. If I said Find My Friends, but
no, I keep thinking that's my brother's favorite social media app. But yeah, Words with Friends. It's great to see other other applications transferred into fire service. That usually seems to be a great innovation strategy within public safety. So kudos to you, Will. Excited to dive in more. And then Chief Tom Clemo, a little intro, a little bit about you, where you're at, and floor is yours.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's good to see everybody on today. Appreciate everybody taking the time. Tom Clemo, I'm the current Deputy Fire Chief with Santa Monica Fire Department. Been here about 14 years now. This is my 37th year in the fire service. Born and raised in Southern California, started here, went to Oregon for about 18 years, and then came back down to Santa Monica. My role here now is largely the administrative side. I do our fleet, facilities, communications, IT, and a lot of our strategic planning and our standard of cover and some of those other pieces associated with accreditation. I'm also an incident commander for one of the federal incident management teams. There's 41 teams in the country, and I'm currently the IC of California Team 7. But it's great to be here and appreciate being on the call.
Thanks, Chief. And Chief Fetterman.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Fetterman, Orange County Fire. I'm a division chief. I oversee fire services for the cities of Yorba Linda, Villa Park, and Tustin. It's just about my 30th year in the fire service. Kind of my experiential piece for wildland fires. I'm a Type 1 Plan Section Chief and Type 1 IC trainee. Probably be hitting you up, Tom. As far as my technology hat, I'm on the TSI Common Operational Platform Committee under the IAFC, FireScope Emerging Information Technology in California, and then also Cal Chiefs Communication and Technology subgroup. So got a few hats on with the tech world, and really I just act as a liaison between field operations and our tech folks. The joke I use is I'm the API that just translates back and forth the tech stuff to the boots on the ground folks. So look forward to have this conversation and then kind of walk some of these concepts out a little bit further.
Well said, Kev. And so yeah, now kind of we're going to throw it over to both Chief Fetterman and Chief Clemo to talk a little bit about some of their past experiences, what worked, and this idea of kind of having a common operating picture and sharing information in real time. Great to continue to see everyone. And just if you are not talking right now, if you could just put yourself on mute so we don't get any echo, that's really much appreciated. So Kevin, I'm going to spotlight you when you do this. So you're going to become really big on this virtual kitchen table for a couple minutes. If you, again, want to share a screen, but Kev, the floor is now yours. We are spotlighting you, and it's all you.
All right, I'm going to put a couple slides on. Do you have my slides there?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the airport fire, which was September of 2024, but it was also tied in with the line fire in San Bernardino, which was in the same time frame, and then the bridge fire. So really a number of very large and significant wildland fires in late last year, and basically how they impacted us and how we utilize technologies with them. So I think we all know intuitively that communications are what drive our information flow, right? So communications are kind of fundamental. So, you know, we've evolved from radios, and now we're into satellite and low Earth orbit, and fairly soon we'll be straight to sat to cell. That information really empowers us, us and any of the field incident commanders to make better decisions, right? More accurate information, more current information equals better decision making. Better decision making is safer operations, smaller fires. I think that's all of our goals. You know, used to be we would depend upon fires or fire towers to see fires, and now we're using AI cameras and AI, and a lot of agencies are having conversations about multiple levels of detection strategy, from satellite to suborbital to ground-based detection sensors. And certainly the Orange County Fire is no different under the innovation of Fire Chief Brian Finney and his leadership. We're looking at all these options, and FireIS and QRF and a bunch of other programs that we've been involved in, just to help kind of continue to push the California Fire Service to move into that technology kind of landscape, or that ecosystem. We see tech as a force multiplier. It makes us more efficient, and that's certainly been our experience. One of the things that we have found really valuable is the California Office of Emergency Services, Wildfire, out of UCSD San Diego. We're getting these fire models really quickly direct to our phones, the incident commander's phones, even the boots on the ground. They're seeing where the fire's starting, whose DPA, whose land it's in, and then even a camera shot, a little bit of a model on how many acres, how many people are involved, and that really lets us evolve the conversation, so we can get on the phone with our partner agencies and Cal Fire and the Forest Service and start to have really, really good conversations about what our needs are and how we can mitigate the incident. We're fortunate to have Tablet Command as our common operational platform, as our single pane of glass, if you will, and what that really has done is it puts everything into one area that you can start to make decisions on. You can see your resources, you can see the fire perimeters, and I think if you rewind back 5 or 7 years, we were always trying to ask, where's the fire at? Because once it gets over the ridge, you don't know where it's at till you get a NIROPS flight, or you may not know for 12 hours, or unless you're getting some intel from an air attack platform or something else. But now we're getting actual perimeters, polygons directly onto our maps where our resources are overlaid, and now you get a much better picture of kind of what's going on with the fire and how we can effectively and efficiently deploy resources. And we couldn't be happier with the product that we're utilizing on with Tablet Command. And I don't say that lightly. I can tend to be a little bit harder on technology, but having used this on the airport fire and on a number of other incidents, it's been a kind of a game changer for us. We learned a few different things. We had to incorporate some dynamic layers, the FireIS layer as a dynamic Esri layer into our mapping product, and that would let us overlay the map onto the DPA and see our vehicles. And certainly Will probably doesn't want to hear from me anymore about pinging him about firefighter tracking, but that's certainly on our radar as well. Like we want to move into, I think everybody on this call would agree that our most important assets are people.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that and lead off, so I'm gonna catch him down here, and then.
So our most important assets are people. So if that's the case, why do we thrust them into the most dangerous environment possible and then completely lose sight of them? So that's kind of been our mission. And as we continue to push that challenge forward, and there's a lot of nuances to those solutions, but it starts with technology. It starts with the folks on this call and evolving the solutions, the nuances of the solutions together, so that we can see the interoperability. So I'm really pumped to be on this call with everybody and looking forward to answering questions later.
Thanks, Chief. All right, let me see if I can remove you from the spotlight here. That was very helpful and great to hear too about kind of one, I'm sure Will appreciates all your feedback and nuances to continue to make the product useful and cool to see where it's heading, and definitely want to dive into that more. So without further ado, Chief Clemo, we're going to throw it to you. I'm also going to make you large for everyone. And there you are. Good to see more people rolling in as well. So Chief Clemo, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thanks. And thanks, Kev. As I'm listening to Kevin talk, it's amazing how far we've come in such a short period of time. In the last 5 years, we have seen Starlink, which is a game changer in terms of communications. And I think we all recall the days of the old sat phone and how you had about 30 seconds to make a call. And now we're at live streaming internet from anywhere. Phenomenal in the last 5 years. The FireIS platform, giving us real-time instant information streamed to your cell phone with video long before, in some cases, units have even arrived. You can listen to what used to be the old NIROPS flight with narration. I'm getting it right in the middle of the day in real time. Just a phenomenal platform. And now, in many ways, the Holy Grail is starting to arrive. And that is a large common operating picture that details not only where our units are, where our calls are, where everybody else's units and toys are, where the aircraft are located, and soon to come, and it won't be very far behind, right down to the individual firefighter location on the fire ground. That is something that has been the focus of a lot of really smart people over many, many years to try to figure out how we can make this happen. There is no lack of willingness from fire chiefs in Southern California, especially, to share data. The LA area has recently stood up one large common operating picture project, and it was an email or text message to the fire chiefs of the agencies all in Southern California, Fennessy, Muncie, Dustin Gardner up in Ventura County. And it was within minutes, instant access to calls for service data, vehicle location data, pre-incident plans are already embedded within the map layer. A pretty phenomenal jump forward in a very short period of time. It just makes me curious what is around the next corner. And to me, firefighter location is a big piece of it. But I also see a huge AI component behind it, trying to do some predictive analytics on where the next incident is going to occur and how we can adapt to that. For example, we'll take a look at the Palisades incident. So I think, as everybody was aware, that coming into the weekend of the 4th and 5th and then Monday the 6th, we knew we were headed for a bad day. We just didn't know where. We knew the weather, probabilities and patterns. We knew resource availability. There wasn't a whole lot of historic call data relative to January, but it allowed many of us to make some good decisions on pre-positioning and pre-planning, and a lot of people took advantage of that. Imagine that at a whole different level with AI on the back end, making some decisions about moving assets from Northern California to Southern California and pre-positioning. Cal OES has clearly embraced the opportunity of pre-positioning by funding it. And I only see more of that in the future. I'm going to try to share my screen if I could. And you guys will have to tell me if this is going to come out okay. I might have to fiddle with it just a little bit. There it is. So on the screen, what you're seeing right now is a tablet command just for the city of Santa Monica right now. Fairly small, 8.3 square mile city, couple of calls going on right now. And as you can see, a few of our units that are out on the map. Very, game changer 5 years ago, where you think, wow, that's pretty amazing. Everything in one dashboard. Well, how things have changed over the last few years. Let's take a look at Southern California. Right now, out of the 29 fire departments that are in Los Angeles County, what you're seeing are about 26 of the 29 that are on the map. In LA City, Will, if I'm not mistaken, has just signed or is signing, and we're going to have everything from LA City on this map. These are hundreds and hundreds of engines spread out all the way down to San Diego. Everything in San Diego, Ventura, Orange, it's all on the map. All the Cal OES units are on the map. It's become a phenomenal tool. And if you can imagine, during the Palisades fire, this is the same tool I was using to try to figure out which strike teams were coming up and down I-5 coming to our party. That's very powerful. And it's not hard to imagine a connection between the resource order that launches the units to putting the units into a 204 on an IAP that we're going to roll out for the next operational period. Because I know who's coming, who's on the rigs, who the strike team leader is. And with a few additional data points, we can push all of that into an automated IAP. That is what's right around the corner. Everything that needs to happen is almost all present currently in the map. Take it up one more notch, and now we take a look at Intera, and all the calls for service data for the LA region are now on the map. Of the 10 CAD systems in 29 departments, 7 of the 10 systems are currently live, with 7 and 8, or 8 and 9 right around the corner. And that's LA City and Beverly Hills. But the power of pushing information to a map with a common operating picture for incoming resources really can't be understated. I think that future, and then adding to it some additional information. For example, you could see the Ventura County pre-plans loaded on the map, starting to head down a path where we have all of this information at our fingertips, so we're not going into it blind. And with travel times being what they are, and more regionalization moving forward, the ability to quickly look at a pre-incident plan of a given MTZ, in this case, is extremely powerful, and only adds to command and control and ultimately firefighter safety.
Hey, Tom, I couldn't agree more. I think the part where the AI is especially going to be helpful, and I think you'll appreciate this, is that, when you're at the back of the buggy, right? You're at the back of the command vehicle, it's extended attack. You've got all this information, resources coming in. You're trying to digest fire plans, and there's videos and modeling. I think the AI is gonna, or hopefully starts helping us reconcile all that information. Because it certainly feels like we're getting pretty close to data overload at the back of the Suburban in that initial attack and extended attack kind of time frame, when we're trying to reconcile all that information and kind of human centric now. But it feels like we'll get some AI recommendations like, hey, have you thought about this community, or hey, have you considered this? These evacuations, stuff like that. I really feel like that's kind of the next big area that we will see as field leadership, incident commanders, that will really kind of help start making a difference.
Yeah, I actually would argue that we are at data saturation right now. It's data driven from the iPad or the tablet, whatever you have in the back of the buggy, but it's also the 5 radio channels you're trying to manage at the same time. For us, it's bolstered a successful argument for the establishment of EITs and all of our battalion chiefs with all of our BCs, because of the amount of information that's coming at them. It's not 1 or 2 TAC channels. It's a command channel, a couple of TACs, an air to ground, a staging channel, and an iPad or 2 with video influence, whether it's from our drone or from Virus or from some other aerial device we have access to, and all of the mapping information and pre-planned information that we have in a given area or a given structure, a given building. I don't think the AI component can be understated as well. Imagine that every morning your strike team in the state, let's just use the state of California, registers on an app, and let's assume that app is supported by Cal OES. You log in, you have all your personnel that are on the 22-person strike team, all your engines, all their data, all their emergency contact information, and their qualifications all in one spot. And it's geo-enabled, so I know right where you're at, and I know you're available. When the button gets pushed, which I imagine will be automated someday, so when that next neighborhood or that next management action point is triggered, it creates a list of resources that would be required, and then a resource order that is then validated and pushed, authorized, pushed to the strike teams. They hit the road. Now I know who's coming, and I could tell them where to go. I could push a comm plan to them automatically, and then I could grab them and shove them inside of an IAP for the next operational period. Now all this check-in, staging, confusion, waiting around, that stuff just starts to go away, because they're getting assigned exactly where I need them based on their true travel times. All of that can be managed on the back end with really minimal influence on the front end. And I'm sure it's going to come up on this call, but the resource ordering system in the state of California has to change. It is not fast enough. Phone a friend is faster. Phone a friend is what we've been doing for the last few years. And I saw Chief Z just pop up on the call. I'm sure he'll beat that same drum, but we have got to do something about resource ordering and start looking at hiring a company that really, really does this well and start to automate it on the back end.
It's interesting.
No, Kevin, go on. Sorry.
It's interesting. That small piece, just the resource assignment of the incident resource ordering system, just identifying the closest resource, right, is we all use closest resource concept in our own entities, right, and we would accept nothing less for medical aid, structure fires, everything else. But as soon as we get outside of one jurisdiction, it becomes a little bit less clear. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that system change, so that we do get more of the closest resource, closest available concept, whether it be, local, state, or federal resources. I don't care. And I don't think any of us care. On day 2 of the airport fire, we had 6 people show up. There was no resources that showed up because they were tied up. They're tied up on the line fire and tied up on the bridge fire. I would have taken a pink or an orange engine. It doesn't matter. I just needed people to put to work. And so closest resource is certainly close to our heart. And I think we're literally watching the system being built in front of us. And I don't want to give Will too many compliments, but when you because he's just going to sit back and enjoy this whole video chat. But when you pulled up the Southern California map with all the fire apparatus, I was like, man, now we're starting to get there. We're starting to at least get tracking on our vehicles. I mean, we've had AVL probably with everybody on this call for a decade at least. And now we can finally start all seeing the pieces together on the same kind of sheet of music. And then when you have an incident like you're talking about, Chief Clemo, it's like now you can see the resources responding in. You have an expectation, a timeline. Now you can think about tactical actions, where you're going to assign them, and you start to see the kind of all the efforts kind of come together. And I'm sure, Will, do you feel like it's kind of all coming together now? Do you feel like there's more to do? Where are you at with this?
It's a good question. I was just trying to let your guys' conversation go back and forth, see how long it could go and hear what you guys are talking about. It's great things. When I started in the fire service, I think, Kevin, you were talking about AVL. We've had it for 10 or 20 years, and it's been siloed in those, legacy computer dispatch systems. To give an example to what you guys were both referring to about responding to an incident or being an incident commander, it's responding as a captain. I remember going, adjacent county immediate need, which was a phone a friend scenario. And as a captain, I don't know anything other than the IC's name, radio channel, and off ramp, and that we're going to a wildland or grass driven wildland fire. So, in knowing that and experiencing that, we built shared AVL and being able to see resources across communication centers. So you're able to start to paint the picture of actually where that fire line is based off where the resources are deployed, and be able to see that while you're responding, or from the IC's perspective, be able to see the units coming in. I think Chief Clemo has a little bit of an anecdote on the Palisades fire of him being able to see that. But it also, I think we're trying to bring everything together. We're doing much better job at doing that. I think I agree with Chief Clemo in terms of resource ordering. I mean, AWS, I literally can push a button right now on my phone and have a package delivered by tomorrow morning with inventory, ETA, cost, all the specs, and it can be delivered to my front doorstep tomorrow before I even wake up at 3 a.m. But we can't seem to order emergency equipment throughout the state of California. We do it over and over and over again. I think that it's, I think we're getting there, with one of the things that I was using as a chief officer is better situation awareness in terms of data. So that would be INWS alerts, which I'm sure you guys are very familiar with, where you're basically subscribing to National Weather Service. So as soon as it's a red flag or a fire weather watch, you're getting that notification. You start that pre-plan, the hiring, and same thing with, we now have incident sharing, shared AVL, and you're able to see and get notifications for incidents, of course, that are inside your own computer-aided dispatch system, but incidents that might be neighboring, which are going to affect you not now, but in 1 hour from now, where you're going to have to assign a strike team, or you might have to get called in on a third alarm. It's giving that information in real time and sharing that information and collaborating. Now with like incident sharing, when we launched that at the end of 2024, we had Ventura units responding down into an adjacent county neighboring communication center, and they said it was an absolute game changer. They had the exact same comments that the units that were hosting the incident had from Tableau Command. So I completely agree with you. Thanks for prompting me to key in here, Chief.
I think the last Firescope the Firescope Board of Directors meeting, we were talking about IROC and resource assignments and all this stuff. And I was sitting next to Sai Nareen from Microsoft, and he's like, it's like Fire Uber, Fuber. And I'm like, I don't know if I would like Fuber, but then I saw Chief Zagaris's comment about Uber for fire resources, and it's totally what it is, right? It's just closest resource concept, right? You wouldn't order an Uber that was 2 hours away. I mean, why would you expect a fire resource for your house fire, your vegetation fire? So, yeah, I can't agree. Couldn't agree more with Chief Zagaris's concepts about interoperability and integration. I think. As this conversation continues to evolve, that really becomes where the challenge is. It's not the data anymore. It used to be we didn't have the data. Now you got all kinds of data. Now you got location, mapping, video, blah, 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 blah. But how do we get it all integrated and interoperable? And so they're not just words anymore. We're actually doing it. And but to your point, Will, you guys have been doing it, and a huge shout out from us and the Fire Authority about how well you guys are doing, and how much work. We appreciate the work that's going on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think the time is long overdue to take a hard look at who is doing this really well and just hire them. And I'll use a Cal OES example. So those of you that have been around a long time recall the old F-42, your shift ticket basically for local government. They talked about automating the F-42 for the better part of 10 years before anything happened. And they went through at least one vendor unsuccessfully to try to automate it. And then they hired Salesforce. And in 2 weeks, they had a beta that was about 95% of the way there. It's a workflow, right? You have your resource order, the incident's plugged into the system, you enter your side of the data, it's approved by Cal OES, and it moves on the chain for approvals ultimately before a check shows up at your agency. Think of how much work went into making that happen until you called the right company to make it happen. I think if I were king for a day, I'd hire Amazon to move fire apparatus in this country. There is no reason why there isn't an app-driven deployment of all overhead, including strike team single resources that are available nationally. There's no reason that it couldn't be there. Think about the assets that are available to you with a single app where you could put everything in there associated with not only your availability, your location, your incident qualification record. It could integrate to several different systems. Then when the bell went off, you have an instant idea of flight following where your personnel are. Our incident management team is 90 deep. We roster 90. We come up on call, ironically, tomorrow, Thursday, on national rotation. The amount of work that goes into the phone calls back and forth when the bell goes off, as we're all on the road driving to who knows where or flying to wherever, is enormous. But why couldn't I have an app where it just showed where everybody was, and I know where they're staying that given night, and I know that they're safe for the night on an RON on their way to or from an incident, or I know who's available or not available instantaneously, which then builds a roster that then builds a 203 for the future IAP. There's no reason all these dots can't get connected. And I think the conversation, especially after the last two major incidents here in Southern California, has gotten enough traction now that at the fire scope level, which is where the change is probably going to occur, we really start to entertain an overhaul of the incident ordering system.
Definitely.
Well, great.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry, no, Kev, go on. Keep going.
It definitely can start to feel how everything is interwoven, right? All the conversations are tied together. The interoperability question is, it's interoperability at the vehicle level, at the people level. It's integration of information at the local, state, federal level. I mean, I think that's the same conversation that we're having, on this call, at the 5x5 conference, at the TSI conference. I mean, those are the ongoing conversations. And frankly, it doesn't even matter if it's a vegetation fire, or it's a train derailment, or it's a large structure fire, where you're integrating drone video and the incident commanders are getting real-time SA. It's just incident management and large incident management, and how we're all doing that. And I'm jazzed that we're continuing to have the conversation. And I think, we have to continue to talk about it, to evolve it, talk about the challenges, and then continue to push it forward. I've said a few times, for the technologists on there, the folks that make technology and then try to come and sell it to the fire department and say, here's a solution for a problem. It works way better. I won't speak for Chief Clemo, but certainly for us, that you have conversations with us ahead of time before you develop the technology, because we can help. We want to solve our problems too, so we'll tell you what the problem sets are, and give you all that really valuable information so you can hone your products. But for us, it's really about mitigating the fire, or preemptively preparing the structures, or any of those steps that we need to do in the whole incident management cycle to get ahead of things. And I think a lot of that starts with having those conversations with not just fire folks, because we are amazing at talking in silos. We could do silos like nobody's business. So what it really needs to look like is the fire leadership talking to the technologists, talking to the electeds, talking to philanthropy, talking to academia, and integrating all those pieces together, and using academia as a force multiplier, telling the technologists what we need, getting the electeds to pay for it. It's a holistic problem. And I think to some degree, and we'll probably talk about the early years, but or anybody on the call, but the fire department's not necessarily quick at adopting new technology. I think somebody said it takes us 3 to 4 years to adopt, and it's technology changes on an 18-month cycle. So we're constantly chasing this widget, right? But inevitably, we need to continue to evolve, but evolve with the whole technology ecosystem, not just the fire folks, not just the technologists.
Will probably tell this story, but a lot of times the homegrown technology, Telecommand's a good example of that, tends to be the most successful, because they are trying to solve a problem that they currently have. They're not trying to dream up a problem that they think people are having and then offer a solution based on that. If you step back 10 years, Will, I'm not sure when you and Andy were down here and we kind of had the whiteboard conversation about this, but a couple of the goals were real-time situational awareness about where your calls are and where your units are, and then the ability to easily manage units. And then the evolution of that was, well, what if this turns into a longer operation, bigger operation, where now we're moving from the initial attack phase to the managed phase. And now we're starting to think about incident documentation, right? What decisions were made? Who was moved where and when? Who is the assigned supervisor for that given division, branch, or group, and when? And now tracking all that and literally building a giant 214. Well, they have all that. And further iterations of it lend itself to pushing all the units into Trello potentially, and then Trello building into Web IAP. And you could see the linkages from the start of the incident to the end of a major incident, where technology plays a role in accountability all the way across the board. And at some point probably makes recommendations based on learned behaviors with some AI engine on the backside of that. So I see a lot of opportunity here. The missing piece, I actually think the piece is there. It just takes, it's the political component of it. is we have now had the incidents that should drive some of the change that we're talking about. I think we can do a better job of moving the toys around nationally than we do now. I think there could be a better job of moving toys around just between South Ops and North Ops a lot more robustly and easily. I'll use the example of the Angeles National Forest. They're on tablet command as well. There is so much interoperability between the Angeles and Verdugo and LA County specifically that they found benefit in publishing their calls for service and their unit location as well. And so regardless of engine color, the resource appears and is available, and that is hugely effective. A snapshot of the map of the Eaton fire the next day compared to the snapshot of the map at the Palisades were a tale of two cities, because most of the units assigned to the Eaton were in tablet command, sharing a common workspace, and you could see everything on that incident. Palisades, all of LA City, is not on that map, but could be and will be in very short order. There's a lot of power in that, in those two stories that I think we could use to help push some of these initiatives forward.
So it seems like we probably might need a second hour in this conversation, and maybe we're probably going to run long here. But I do want to kind of lean into a little bit of the open kitchen table conversation here. And again, everyone's in here. We probably will end up running a little long. So if you have to jump off at any time, please do. But based on stuff that you've heard, whether it's conversations around the closest resource concept, data overload, individual firefighter tracking, there's so many different ways this conversation can go, and using the tool like tablet command. But John Trautwein, I may be sorry if I butchered your name. Trautwein, would love if you came off mute for a sec. And again, if you want to raise your virtual hand or physical hand, I'll come to you next. But John, and we'll throw it to Roger after this. But John, comment, question, take it away.
Sure, thanks. And you can pronounce my last name any way you want. I answer to everything. Anyway, yeah, no, I think this is an outstanding conversation, and appreciate the leadership, Tom and Kevin speaking to it, because, I mean, I agree and concur wholeheartedly. I think it seems like the fire service typically is, man, I wanted to say 10 years behind in technology, but it's realistically more 20 plus. Even if we all think about our systems and where we have worked, and just keeping up with getting laptops and PCs within your stations or within your office that are current. It's ridiculous to think of. So I think what I do like about where we're headed with this is it's simple, it's functional. And then, as Chief Clemo stated, just the layers that we have at our fingertips. And it's really not just a command and control benefit, really down to a single resource. There's a huge benefit there for company officers. So I'm excited where it's going. I know we're making efforts in LA County. I know Chief Clemo's getting all 10 dispatch centers on board. And as we turn that corner, we're working right now with advanced problem solving to get some very good training going for the county, just to say, hey, here's where we're headed, here's what we're going, here's a taste. But I do like Chief Fetterman. I think you're correct. We have to have the conversations, and then we have to take simple steps. Whether it's getting all your dispatch centers on board, whether it's doing a little more advanced training for the troops. So my hat goes off to the hard work, and I think we're going to see some real incredible advances here, and it's exciting because I haven't seen. I had 31 years and I hadn't seen anything like this in my career, and really, I know it's taken a long time, but it really is advancing quite rapidly now. So, thank you for that, and again, I'm really excited to see where this is headed.
Chief Clemo, Fetterman, anything to add on that before we throw it to Roger? And then I see WPV ready. You'll be second. But
yeah, let's hop in. Roger, what do you got?
Thanks, Sean.
all. No, I appreciate it. I'm one of the JS architects here at CalOS, and we've been having some conversations, especially during JHACs. We realized that it really is a data interoperability problem, right? It's really aligning on the most authoritative data sources that we all can come together and say, these are the ones we're going to use, and then ensuring that we can share data across whatever whatever picture that people are bringing. And I think that's the mindset change that's come up recently. I think is it's not we don't need to force the technology down people's throats. Everyone has their own. Some counties are big and they have a lot of investment already in certain platforms, and they work really well for those users because they're out there and they're gaining that knowledge from those users on the ground. When I worked at DTSC, one of the big things we did was get out on the ground for all the phase 1 recovery work and figure out what they're doing and figure out how we can help and how we can use GIS to kind of accelerate and improve their processes. And I think that's we're kind of trying to change. So really, we're looking at this idea of almost a common operating system where it's the data is aligned underneath, and we use different methods to move it here and there, however we need to, into the different platforms that different folks have. And I think that kind of lines in with what we're trying to all discuss here, which is when I show up to an incident, I want to see the resources around me so I have a better understanding, or even when I'm on my way. I think integrating the Salesforce ordering systems, integrating emergency management systems like VOCI and E360 and all these other things, right? I think that's the key, is connecting all these pipelines and building some logic. And AI is really going to help kind of bring all this stuff together. If you think about it, it's going to help kind of rectify these data changes, kind of find patterns. A great example is like the Irwin data right now is reporting 2 separate incidents for the same fire. You pass it into AI and it knows to rectify that and provide a summary across that, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of things that it can help us kind of accelerate the process. You definitely still need people in the middle to kind of evaluate that information that's going out. But I think we're getting close to this crux of it's all about the data and of aligning on the data and making sure all these platforms work together, because there's no way I can build something the tablet command can, right? Because it's built for those users that are using it and they love it and they're providing feedback and it's improving the product for them. I don't want to replace that. So
Yeah, Roger, I appreciate the comment. Those on the call that are decision makers for purchasing software, I think the best thing that you can do is step back and figure out how that software can integrate with other pieces of software that you already have or desire to have in the stack that only help your business and help the way that your business workflow is. Managing an incident is no different than it's just business workflow. It's process management, and software can aid in you doing that. But if you have the power of the pen and the checkbook, that is what's really going to make some of these changes.
To Roger's point, and I'll actually even point out what you said, Roger. The Irwin system is a good model, kind of framework to look at about how it hubs information out to IROC or to IQS or to other systems. That's what, as this ecosystem evolves, that is going to need to look something like that, but obviously faster and AI driven. But there's already models out there of integration systems, right?
Said we'll keep this rolling. This is the best part of the conversation. So I see WPV ready. You are showing upside down, but that's
All right.
okay.
I'm sorry I'm upside down. I feel like I'm right side up gravity wise. I'm driving at the moment, so I apologize if the noise component is a little high. My name is Robert Seidel. I'm from Northern California, Woodside, Portola Valley, CERT team. So I'm probably a little bit of an outsider given all the professional fire resources on this call. I've been very interested in common operating picture type for our CERT team as well, which is a smaller subset of what you guys are doing. And I feel I've been in a silo because all of what I've been looking at and hearing about was TAC as a platform, as an integration system. And so I'm hearing about tablet command for the first time. I'd love to know a little bit, if you have the experience of contrasting the two systems. And obviously, I think tablet command comes out of the fire service itself, and TAC comes out of special forces and military. But it's been adopted by the Colorado Center of Excellence, COTAC. So I'd like to hear if you have opinions on one versus the other, strengths, weaknesses. That's number one. That's a question. The second is a question about how you currently track your resources. You have presumably in the people resources I'm talking about. I use Beartooth, ATOS, GoTennas, Meshtastic. What kind of system is being used for tracking people? And then the third is an observation. I just was at the Montana conference. It's called a Tough Stump Rodeo, where they try to put all these systems together, mesh network radios and so forth. And talking about overload, they actually strap now on people watches that take biometrics and can report in per team what are the oxygen levels, respiration levels, so that if resources get exhausted or actually fall over and don't move anymore, you instantly have alarms going off at the common operating picture level. So that was interesting to me that you could get that information. Of course, it's yet more data, but since we're talking about people being a primary resource in all of this, I thought it was interesting. So I guess my two questions are contrasting the TAC ecosystem with tablet command, and two, what you use for tracking human resources at the moment. And I'll mute myself so that you don't have to listen to my car noise. Thank you.
There's probably an hour answer on those two questions alone, at least, right? Maybe I'll start and then.
Yeah, give it your best shot, and I want to get a couple more. So keep it maybe a little shorter than you would, but definitely let's give it a good shot, Fetterman and Clemo, if you can, and Will. Yeah,
there's a space for TAC, especially with TAC Aware coming around for the iOS platform, and the wearables and the integration into TAC is incredibly valuable right now. The heart rates and all that stuff. I think we're super interested in looking at those things and what they offer for the surveillance of our people, or checking our people and making sure they're safe in their locations and all that, and their health. But it's an integration piece, right? So because we talk about one or hundreds of common operational dashboards, is how they work together. So I definitely think there's space, and we were having some of those conversations even recently. The larger question is, the problem with all of it's all nuanced, right? So GoTennas will work in the wildland environment, but they won't say work in the structure environment. And satellite will work in wildland, but won't work in structure. So, we keep holding our breath almost till we're blue in the face looking for this panacea. And there's lots of current solutions. And what it might look like is separate solutions for wildland and structure. But there's a lot of complexities on how our people use that. So, everyone, I think the committees, the technology committees, people are looking at those solutions right now, but it's a little bit more complex than people look at when you're looking at a holistic solution. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think whatever first of all, there'll be no final solution, but there will be multiple integrations. So right now I've got an integration with telestaff to tablet command. So at least I know what individuals are on that apparatus at any given second. Even if they do a quick shift change for 4 hours, we know who is on engine 4 today on that given call, which builds a roster. Well, what if that were integrated to all the biometrics associated with each person? And now I can get right to the individual. And then if there is some sort of GPS tracking capability somehow, that is also present. So yet again, another layer, but in a common platform. I would liken it to using tablet command as your mobile data client. We use tablet command and two-way integration because it eliminates what the firefighters typically look at. I don't need them to be looking at that. I want them looking at the map and looking at where units are and managing the incident. And that's one single space. It just happens to have en route, on scene, available, returning as an option on the left side of the screen that then changes their unit status for all my CAD benchmarks that we require. But they're all operating out of one common screen that serves as the gateway to all these different data integration and levels of intelligence based on their position or based on their interest at the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief. I want to comment on the location. So And one of the things in all this data that we're talking about integrating, and Tablet Command does a great job, and these chiefs know, and our customers know that we do a great job in integrating. If it makes sense and the customer wants it, we'll bring it into the application. When we are building the application, one of the things I want to caution everyone about is that, there's all these different sources of data, and, AI is going to help summarize that, but also AI could, potentially be pushing data to us that we don't necessarily need to see as well. When we were building Tablet Command, one of the biggest frustrations people had with the application, or the biggest pushbacks that they had, was like, this application is going to make me focus on the iPad. I'm not going to watch the incident. And that's exactly the opposite of what our goal is we want to be able to bring everything a single pane of glass instead of the 5 different silos of information you might have in your command buggy. We bring it all into Tablet Command, so it's just a quick glance and a simple drag and drop. We've in terms of personnel integrations, we're talking with all of the providers out there. So Ascent, Somewhere Labs, 3AM. Right now, we're working on a Motorola radio integration for P25 location. No one's really had that. And the reason that they haven't had it, it's been in the radio, but no radio system can support it. Now with the next radios that Motorola's come out with the cellular connectivity, you can have that 3-second latency and update your location for all those firefighters. So that's one of the things that we're working at. So we're open to all those different solutions or sources of information. And the difference between ATAC and Tablet Command, Chief Clemo gave the good example of an MDT. We can do all this stuff in terms of tracking, drawing on the map, seeing firefighter location or engine location in Tablet Command, but we're CAD integrated. So we're providing you early notification. You get the real-time updates on terms of the comments, and you can start managing that incident in terms of resources, and dragging and dropping the amounts of divisions and columns, which you may be used to in terms of your tactical worksheet. So there's a little bit more of an incident management component, I think, that's more public safety driven in terms of how to manage the incident. And what ATAC I know is great for tracking resources and drawing on the map and those type of things. So some of that's the contrast. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Will. And yeah, that's one we could go much deeper on, and maybe we should next month, who knows? But so Josh Wilkins, I see you get your hand raised, and also Donovan, I'll throw it to you after that. So Josh Wilkins, the floor is yours.
Hey, Kevin. Well, I want to touch on one common theme here is we have silos in the fire service, and we also have silos on the technology side. We don't know what we don't know. And I've been thinking of this problem since the Esperanza fire, when we lost, 5 guys, and, for the most part, due to lack of situational awareness. I think it would have been a different outcome if they had better SA. How do we break this down in the means of fire service is extremely hard to get information out of, who to contact, and what do you need? Industry folks, it's the completely opposite, but we don't know what we like. As a firefighter, I have no idea what the capacity of my question and maybe even recommendation is how do we combine together to where we can break down silos at the same time, whether it is like an event like Tough Stump, which is an amazing event. It's a 3-day event. It's outdoors, and you're physically putting the technologies to work. And you both have the companies, the operators, a full circle. How do we combine that into an event that we can rapidly solve all of our silo issues, our technology issues, and validate rapidly? So the OODA loop is rapid, instead of what our traditional way of solving these problems is months, years, and sometimes we're hoping that we stumble across the technology. To me, that would solve so many problems. Now, being on the outside looking in, so many people are trying to figure out, how do I understand what the fire department needs? I could build it, I just need to know. Or what is the one thing that will solve 80% of the problems? So that is something, I guess, to the panel and even to the attendees is we add one more aspect to it. Chief, your incident management team can create an amazing environment for folks trying to understand that environment. You know, watching the teams and how their process is, you know, physically being at an incident without being, but to truly rapidly grasp what you need right now. How can we integrate that into this process as well? Anyway, I know it's a question and a statement, but what are your thoughts?
So Josh,
That's good.
I'll
Tom, you
tackle
first.
this first because I think this might help you a bit. If you feel bad about how siloed the fire service is, go look at the cops and you'll feel a lot better. And there is hope. To my point about when the LA region stood up the Intera Common Operating Picture, it was a phone call to friends to then allow the data to flow so that we all saw it. And in 5 days, I can see all the data in Southern California on one map. That is unheard of, and that's about relationships, and it's about at least the political willingness to share. So it is there. Here's if another king for the day ask of mine is interoperable CAD systems. CAD is what you have paid for, you own it, but the data is held hostage. And it is held hostage because it requires you to pay money initially and every year in maintenance to keep that data, your data, flowing to whatever different consumption software that's out there that you want it to. And if that was much more open sourced and interoperable, a lot of the challenges of silos tend to go away. The hardest thing about standing up 10 CAD systems in the second largest metropolitan area in the country has been the politics of data management and the politics of CAD systems and police departments letting that data go so that and it's your data, by the way, to then share. And so I just offer that.
Yeah, I think some of it, Josh, is it's structural, right? Like we all have separate organizations with separate purchasing processes and separate requirements at the local level before you get to the state level and then on to the Fed level. So some of it just natively into our structure is siloed. That's where Western Fire Chiefs comes into play, and the IAFC can come into play. That's where umbrella organizations can really help kind of push that message. Cal Chiefs or other organizations can kind of push that more global message or process even, right? That's we're at the fire authority level, we're kind of hampered by our purchasing process. We got to fire strict guidelines on who we can talk to and who we can't talk to, and then so that's hard. But there are entities, and I think Western Fire Chiefs is a great example of, and Chief Z could talk at length, I'm sure, about it. But there are organizations that can help kind of get through that, get us from intent to action, right, and work through some of those the silos for sure.
Yeah, Josh, I want to comment on the silos. I agree with you that there a lot of agencies still are stuck in silos with the CADs, and to Tom Clemo's point, they're held hostage with the data there. With the interoperability, you have to pay for that. I think that there is a turning point, though, in the industry where agencies are recognizing that the sharing the data is more powerful than holding the data. And, I want to say that with Tablet Command and customers that we have with the shared AVL, which we launched in 2018, I feel like people are starting to get it, and we're doing incident sharing. And Chief Clemo just stood up with the LA region, essentially a common operating picture showing incidents and vehicle locations. And Tablet Command, we're starting to see that trend across the country. It's not just in California. So we'll have 2, 3, 4, 5 communication centers. They run auto aid or mutual aid all the time. They don't know anything. They're delaying call time delays between centers, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And what we're starting to see is they are recognizing that with a platform like Tablet Command, you can start sharing that data or get notifications quickly, as opposed to waiting for the dispatcher to pick up. And there's nothing against dispatchers. It's just the workflow is slow. Picking up on a telephone and calling versus receiving an Apple push notification, it's definitively faster. So I think there's a trend now where agencies are starting to recognize that keeping that data siloed is actually not as efficient as sharing it.
Hey, Will, if I could jump in, I'm surrounded on three sides by LA City. It's a 2-minute on a good day call processing time, phone a friend to request a resource, phone back, letting us know what the resource is. When now, incident sharing, I just ran a CAD to CAD interface, which would cost me probably $3 million to do it.
Political,
now,
legal, yeah.
Yep. All I do is I give them a tablet command client, or they become a tablet command customer, and we push the call to them. They assign a resource, they push it back, then they update manually the CAD system. I've just saved millions of dollars in minutes and time on a daily basis. That is a no-brainer to me. And if I were a CAD vendor, I'd be paying attention to what's going on with that, because that is just firefighters being incredibly creative, right? And that's what we do, is figure out how to get it done no matter what the path is. And for us, this is by far the fastest way we've been able to operate with in a highly urban area and dropping a border and just speeding up the process. It's as close to ringing the bell in their station as I can get right now.
Yeah, we're working towards, I love that you are innovative and trying to share licenses and all that kind of stuff, which we fully support. But incident sharing, we're working on notifications where you have essentially in theoretically, because LA City is coming on, we're working through legal stuff right now, but LA City assigns a Santa Monica unit in their CAD. Yep. And as soon as it's assigned, at the exact same time that local units notifications are going off, that Santa Monica City units notifications are going off. And I'm not saying that they just go. There still has to be an essentially tracking resources with their CAD and checking in, making sure they're good, or maybe there's a policy about not going in. I don't know what it is, but they get a notification that they've been assigned by the LA City CAD, or Santa Monica Fire has been assigned. So we're really trying to break down those barriers and give units kind of a heads up.
Well, that right there just saved 2 minutes.
Yeah,
that action right there saves 2 minutes, and their CAD system already recommends a Santa Monica unit. You just don't know which unit.
Right.
So now that you automate that just takes the problem all away. And for folks sharing stuff across borders all the time, what a great solution that is.
Yeah, and with the LA fires, we had resources from California, had resources from all over the state and outside the state, tablet command customers, where LA County basically said, give them anybody that's responding to these fires in Southern California access to these incidents, any wildfire incident in LA County. Yep. And they have the access to the exact same data that LA County resources have the exact same time. I mean, that's what it needs to be. And that's what we're doing today. So,
yeah. And for those on the call, on my tablet command, I could see everything on the Eaton fire, and I could see everything on the Palisades, the map, the division breaks, the units, everything. That is getting us much closer to where we need to be.
The irony is that the CAD vendors aren't even in the conversation. They don't show up at the tech conferences. They don't. Yep. They're not engaged on the. They don't put resources towards it. They don't seem to be helping on one side of the coin. The other side of the coin, you have entities like Watch Duty that are just consolidating all this information and then immediately sharing all that information and are wildly successful. And so, you look at both sides of the coin, and it's about the sharing of information, right? And anybody that's not, it's going to go to the way of the payphone. It's just the reality of it, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys are doing it, Chief Clemo. We're starting to write that stuff into our RFPs, right? Like
it is in our yep.
You must integrate. You must share information. Otherwise, that's how we make them do it.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We have a new CAD system. That was line number 1 in the statement of work.
And hey guys, just continue the sake of time, if you want to continue to stay on, please, we're going to keep going for a little bit longer. You got to drop off, please do. But I got Donovan and also Chief Z who wanted to ask comments. So Donovan, if you want to either come off camera or just come on audio, just kind of any question or comment on your work and experience with all things Tablet Command or questions you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. We just started working with Tablet Command within Pacific Gas and Electric, and bringing our information into Tablet Command of showing our assets inside of our territory. Obviously, PG&E covers 70,000 square miles of California. And with us sharing the information and using Tablet Command, we're able to see the equipment. We're actually looking at adding our safety infrastructure protection team, which are our PG&E resources that are out there that are on standby for medical and also for power outages and stuff like that. They're actually going to be assembling pretty soon because of a PSPS event that we're having pretty soon, starting tomorrow. But the information is being shared in Tablet Command. And also we just partnered with Cal OES to be able to give them the information, because the hardest part about getting the information back and forth between the utilities is where our lines are. Nobody wants to actually show you, like the fire department, nobody wants to really see where the equipment is. Everybody wants to see where the equipment is, just like we want to be able to see where our CIPT crews are, our public safety specialist, but also be able to share that opportunity of our assets to Cal OES so that everybody can see within Tablet Command and actually see where our resources are and also see where our lines are. But yeah, we just started using it just recently. I literally just got a sign on probably a week ago, and so far we're loving the Tablet Command, and we use a lot of other tools too, but it's definitely a good resource for us.
Donovan, SDG&E has really leaned forward in this area, and they have since joined their larger common operating picture project. And we would love to do the same with PG&E in the LA region, because there's a ton of value in seeing where your assets are. And we only see a real opportunity with that. So I know you got my LinkedIn profile. Please jump in, and we'd love to have you.
And I'm part of the Hazard Awareness Warning Center, and we are staffed 24/7, 365 days. Where basically we work mostly remote, but we have an operating center that love to have you guys come up and do a tour with in San Ramon. And we've had San Diego Gas and Electric, we've had Hawaii Utility, we've had a lot of other utility companies, and Cal OES, Cal Fire. A lot of the Bay Area fire departments have come in for a tour of our Hazard Awareness Warning Center, because we're constantly monitoring all these different resources. We went from started up in 2018 just monitoring wildfires, and now we're all hazards. So we do fires, earthquakes, landslides, debris flows, and also solar flares, tsunamis, everything. So it's a huge operating center, and it's definitely the more tools you have in the toolbox, it definitely helps out with us being in the right place at the right time, and making sure that all wildfires stop on utilities.
Donovan, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we're in conversation and obviously with PG&E, San Diego Gas and Electric, about, of course, using it as like you just mentioned, but, exploring the options of doing data sharing in terms of, between, imagine Santa Monica Fire gets a call for lines down, and that triggers immediately into the PG&E account, and then they have knowledge about what's going on. You're sharing specific details, potentially fire engine location from a safety perspective, that lineman showing up, not knowing where the line is, et cetera. One other thing I heard is on the Palisades fires, I was talking to somebody at PG&E, they assigned a number of resources down to the LA region to assist in terms of, safetying everything and also standing equipment back up. And they said, they would stand at the command post and say, hey, how many teams do you have, PG&E teams do you have in here? And they'll say 7, and 9 come out. And so that's clearly an accountability issue in terms of not tracking resources. And so we think that there's definitely a benefit to fire and public safety, of course, sharing data appropriately, but being able to see resource location from a safety perspective when they're operating on these larger incidents and small incidents.
Hey, we have another 10, 15 minutes or so before we're going to cut off. But Chief Z, I know you've been commenting a few things. Any kind of comments, questions, things you want to add here?
I think every technology really should start out at the local level and work its way up to the more complex and catastrophic events is one of the things out there. But we're really stymied in a lot of ways by some of the folks that are are doing our technology. And I'll start off with, the CADs are probably the bigger issue. They've made money for so long off being a closed system, and they just don't want to share. It's how they're making their money. But again, you've already talked about how you need to put in your RFPs and make that change. On the same end, we within public safety, we've got to walk over to our law enforcement partners and get them on board, because so many cities or jurisdictions are sharing that CAD system. We've got to be on the same page. We've got to walk through it. I put a comment in here, and just a few weeks ago, Seattle Times, banged on Pano cameras because they weren't sharing, and they weren't even public facing. So, that's now in the process of being changed. George Geisler out of Washington DNR sent me a note saying he had already been working on it. And I think that's where we have to continue to go. That's where we've got to continue to push a lot of areas. But all of us have dealt with our agency CIOs, and they're the next toughest bunch. I've got to imagine that Will, when he has to deal with some of the issues, that's one of the groups we run into. Besides some of the other companies that have technology, nobody wants to share, but we all needed to share. For situational awareness, safety of our personnel, and then really at the end of the day, we really want the public to share. And I laugh because one of the companies that's been providing this mapping and support over the years really created an issue both for, I think, Will early on in sharing some of the data, as well as Watch Duty when they said, hey, you can't share our data. And it comes back to, again, making sure that you identify that it's your data, never their data out of it. So I think those are, the key things. But, Kevin mentioned early on, and so did Tom, that, California is working through an issue that really flared its head during three major fires last year in September. But, kind of also interesting is that really didn't flare its head during the LA fires, probably because there wasn't any other competition. Everything got sucked into one place. But I think that the fire service as a whole, and with our law enforcement partners, need to start pushing our state legislators to where we need to go and where we want us to go. And it's not just here in California. Colorado's in the same boat. Oregon's probably in a little better shape. They've had some really good things going on since 2020. But I think, again, that we've got to continue to push. Government is not really the solution, and identified that, our reimbursement process, our CalOES IT folks tried to fix it, couldn't do it. We went out with a contract. The first contractor didn't deliver, and wasn't until the third time was the charm that we actually got to where we're at with the F-42s and reimbursement. But again, lessons be learned, and the more we all talk and communicate and share, the better we are. That's what I have for you, Kevin.
Thanks, Chief. Kev, Tom, or William, you want to add to anything what Chief C just said?
Rumpf. I thank Kim for being on the call. I mean, his voice with the Western Fire Chiefs carries a lot of weight. To Kevin's point, participation with that group, especially on the technology side of things, are what's going to change it nationally. It's going to start in California. It's going to end up moving east from here. And I think we've got a lot of really good opportunities to demonstrate what right looks like.
Yeah, appreciate all Chief Zagaris' comments. I agree with a lot of that. So thanks, Chief.
All right, Mandar, I see you've got your camera on. I don't know if you wanted to ask a question or comment, but if your camera is on, I'm going to ask you, and we probably got another 10 minutes before we close down here. But if you got a question, ask it, a comment, drop it. So sorry for mispronouncing your name, but Mandar, do you want to say anything?
Not exactly, but this is my first time with you guys, and it's been a very, educative for me. I have been a part of wildfire competition with XPRIZE, and I have been looking out to connect with more people to understand how these things work, and this was very informative. Thank you for that.
Great. Well, you came to the right place, and continue to be involved. There's a lot going on within XPRIZE and Smart Firefighting and TSI and all these different shows. So thanks for being here, Mandar. Did anyone else want to ask or say anything? Josh, I see your camera came back on, but I'm seeing other people Andrea, Nick, Greg Boyd, Mark Shea, Mike Hermel, Steve Kraft, A. Kibbe, Dale Rolfson, Gary Oldham. I'm just kind of potentially holding any of you if you wanted to say anything or drop anything before we finish out here.
Maybe Will can talk a little about where he's at with CAL FIRE coming on board with Tablet Command, and will be a major game changer, I think, not only for us in California, but it'll really push some issues nationally, as that's slowly working its way through their big bureaucracy.
All of a sudden, Will's thinking about how much he can say.
Exactly. That's right. That's 100% true.
You see the look on his face? That's the how much can I say look.
That was exactly it. Just to give history on Tablet Command and CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE is broken up into 21 different units for those that don't know on the call throughout the state of California, and they have 22 CADs. We had 8 of those units as Tablet Command customers with full integrations. CAL FIRE Situation Unit has come on as a customer, and we've got integrations with all 22 CADs now, and we're working with the state to. The state is it's complex in terms of dealing with 22 different CADs essentially as one customer is very complex. So we're working with the state to provide them TC Mobile on the firefighter, to Tablet Command on the units in the field, chief officers to managing incidents, and trying to build that out so it's not as simple as a Santa Monica account with one CAD. It's one account or multiple accounts throughout the state of California. And so been working with CAL FIRE. They are very excited, very motivated. We're very happy to be with them, and I think it's going to really kind of change all of California, altogether with them being on the platform as well. So hopefully that helps Kim answer your question without me saying too much.
They want to speak.
Not enough.
Yeah, it really starts to look like a statewide CAD, right? Like you can see resources in the entire state, and that's what right looks like. So that's the direction that not only us, but the Western U.S. when we're not the only ones having fires, that just need to move in that direction as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be a single statewide CAD. I used to think years ago, well, let's just all get on one system. No, the workaround is integrating multiple different CADs, probably through a single platform, Tablet Command or if not Tablet Command, that is pulling in all the data from the different CADs, but it just homogenizes it for the end user. They don't know any different, and nor should they. And I'll keep beating on the drum about it's your data. You've paid for it. You have access to it. You should have access to it. And you should be able, especially as a fire chief, be able to push it wherever you want to push it to help the larger mission.
And NERIS should actually help us also with somewhere we're going and sharing that data from the CADs and that down the road. No different than really developing not only by agency, but by state and by the nation, an inventory system of our resources, and then working back through where we're going to go with the qual system.
There's probably some conversation about the public safety cloud, or what a public safety cloud, how that ties into this whole or rises above this whole conversation, but that's definitely a conversation for another time.
Yep.
All right, final minutes here. Anyone else want to drop any comments or questions? If not, we're going to do final comments here. Josh, you want to say anything else?
I guess this would be more for Chief Z, but would there be a way to legislate standardization in CADs, down the road, obviously, but would there be a way if we came up with a single standard data output? And I say this because like the 3D industry, like Unreal Engine and those folks, they actually created an industry standard data format that's now cross-platform, and it can be done, I guess. Would that be something we could legislate?
We've done it with radio communications, P25.
Yeah.
I want to say that there has been some effort and some success at standardizing lots of CAD data. But I don't know that there is a single national standard or set of standards for it. Kevin might.
I think one of the ways you could actually do some of it is you get everybody on the same page. But again, law enforcement's the other big animal that's at the table. But everybody pays into a 911 fee. That money generally goes into your 911 centers. It also helps pay for your CADs and everything else. And so realistically, if you could legislate it at a state level, that'd be a place to start, because then again, that way it catches on to other states, and they don't all need to be totally the same. They just need to share a certain data set that can be shared no matter what happens.
Yeah, there's actually a number of data interoperability standards that, from our experience being in the industry now almost 15 years, 14 years, we don't see the standards in practice utilized amongst CAD to CADs or amongst the vendors. But I agree with you. It would be great to have some type of standard, and it shouldn't even be a standard interface, to be honest. It should be something more than that. It should be like a connector. It's not just a standard where they would have to then build it. They're going to send Chief Clemo another bill to build to that standard or to tie that into another CAD. It should be click next. All the tools now in the SaaS world are, you go to Google, you go to Zapier, you go to, you name it, whatever tool you're using, Slack, they all have webhook connections, and it's all standardized, right? And that's the way the CAD should be operating. That's the way, Tablet Command wants to get to as well, is it should just be click next. You send the data here, send it here, and it should be Chief Clemo can do it. He doesn't have to do a PO. He doesn't have to go out for an RFP on an integration. He doesn't have to call the CAD vendor. It should just be built in, not to a standard, but to an actual connector, in my opinion.
Yeah, CAD agnostic, and it's
kind of
like
the
data that matters.
It's kind of like NIST and the National Integration Center getting together and making a national standard with integration.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe could NIST be that catalyst?
It's certainly a starting point. Should be on their radar. We should make it on their radar.
I know that I'm not part of any of these conversations, but I know that FireScope has created a subcommittee called CAD to CAD, and they're trying to work on standardization. Chief Fetterman, are you on that committee, or is that no?
Chief Sheehan, I think, is on here, or was on here. He is on that group.
Yeah.
Seems like this is a multi-part series.
Right? Kevin, I just want to say thank you to you and Smart Firefighting for keeping the conversation going and making it a weekly dialogue, because, you make a diamond with slow, constant pressure, right? So thanks for continuing the conversation and letting us get on here and chat a little bit about what right looks like.
I appreciate that, and definitely my goal is to continue to bring together .gov, .org, .edu, and .com stakeholders, everyone that's involved. And this is a perfect example of end users and a company that, like Tablet Command, that's continuing to solve real problems with real people, and iterate and finding ways to work with groups like PG&E and Cal OES. So kudos to you, Will, and the Tablet Command team, and Chief Clemo and Chief Fetterman. Really, it's been a joy to listen and learn, and I think this is start of more. We do weekly podcasts, but these roundtables are fun and interactive, and it was great to see some of the connections. So, Chief Clemo or William. I say William because that's my new son's name. I don't know Will or William, but I'm going with William. So, William or Chief Clemo. Anything else you wanted to finish off with here today?
No, just thanks for having us, and look forward to future conversations. Obviously, there's hours of this that could be had to take deep dives into some of these other subject areas. But thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely, Kevin. Thank you so much. And if anyone has any interest and is not aware of Tablet Command, you can go to tabletcommand.com or reach out to sales@tabletcommand.com to set up a demo. If you want any other information, we're happy to support you. But Kevin, thank you so much. And to the Chiefs, Clemo and Fetterman, thank you so much for joining us.
Likewise, and seeing some great comments from Dr. Michael Flaxman and Gary Oldham. Those are both more conversations we need to have. So to be followed, the next one. So thanks again, all. I'm going to stop recording here and end the meeting. So hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday, safe rest of the week, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.